Let's look a little more closely at the areas of conduct and expectations for staff-student interactions. The Code of Conduct requires all staff members avoid boundary violations in their interactions with students. A boundary violation is any behavior which crosses the line verbally, physically, emotionally, or socially that a staff member must maintain between themselves and a student in order to ensure structure, security, and predictability in the educational environment. It is an act or omission not having a legitimate educational purpose and may potentially abuse the staff-student relationship. The Code of Conduct identifies specific behaviors which, absent extenuating circumstances, are boundary violations and should be avoided by school staff. The list is not all-inclusive. Your local education agency may include additional behaviors in its policy, which are considered boundary violations in staff-student relationships. With the variety of personalities and activities in a school each day, it would be impossible to list every situation which may arise. Identifying specific acts and behaviors is intended to help establish a criteria or baseline to assist in appropriately drawing lines for all staff-student interactions. In individual or unique circumstances, the location of the boundary line may vary. Elementary versus secondary student, the type of class or activity, a student's unique disability, or even familial relationships between a staff member and student may impact whether specific conduct is acceptable. One example of the way specific circumstances may impact the propriety of an action may be an occupational therapist working with a preschool child with disabilities. The service provider holds the child around his waist to steady him while working to improve balance. This would be acceptable physical contact. However, a high school English teacher would have no educational purpose in touching a student in the same way. If you have specific questions, it's always best to discuss them with your supervisor or administrator. One area requiring careful consideration to avoid boundary violations is meeting with a student in isolation. Behaviors which may be considered boundary violations include isolated one-on-one interactions with students out of the line of sight of others, meeting with students in rooms with covered or blocked windows, sitting or riding alone in a vehicle with a student, intentionally being alone with a student on campus or away from the school. Consciously consider location. If it is necessary to meet with an individual student, meet in a visible location. Keep the door open, or request a coworker join you, perhaps even electronically if no other option exists. This will protect you from the risk of false allegations or assumptions, as well as protecting the student. Giving a student undue or preferential treatment is conduct which can raise concerns and cross the line. We work in education because we care about education and the students. A caring, positive adult role model can have a positive, lasting impact on a student. Motivating students by encouraging them, rewarding them, and getting them involved shows we care. However, giving preferential treatment to a specific student or group of students, providing gifts or special favors to individual students that are not offered or available to all students, or giving gifts with no educational purpose violates appropriate staff-student boundaries. Taking a student to lunch to talk about things, inviting a student to your home, or regularly writing notes to a particular student crosses the boundaries of appropriate staff-student relationships. In some instances, it may be the student who is seeking the targeted attention. He or she may be looking to a staff member to be a confidant, friend, or surrogate parent. Although it may be evident that the student is facing personal challenges and may need assistance, when a student seeks attention that is beyond the parameters of the staff-student relationship, it is the staff member's duty to establish clear boundaries. Be kind, but firm. For example, a student begins to hang out regularly after class and share the difficulties of divorcing parents. Things are so bad at home, the student asks if he could just go home with you. Couldn't he just text you tonight if things get really bad? An appropriate response may be, I'm concerned about you, and I'll do what I can to support you here at school, but I can't be your parent or friend. My place is to be your teacher, or advisor, or coach. It may be appropriate to refer the student to an administrator or guidance counselor for additional support. Referral to youth support programs such as the Safe Utah app may be appropriate. The Safe Utah Crisis Chat and Tip Line is a statewide service that provides real-time crisis intervention to youth through live chat right from their smartphone. This service is staffed by licensed clinicians 24/7, providing supportive or crisis counseling, suicide prevention, and referral services. If a staff member believes that a student's well-being is at risk, state law requires a school employee notify the student's parent without delay. If you are unsure of how to do this, enlist the assistance of a school administrator. In some cases, a staff member may be seeking attention from the student, fostering the relationship to fulfill the staff member's own needs. A staff member struggling with personal problems may find the attention and admiration bestowed by a student provides needed emotional support and comfort. Being the favorite teacher or coach that every student comes to brings with it a sense of empowerment. The staff member may not even realize the personal motivation behind his own actions. When interacting with students, staff members must maintain the integrity of the education setting and honor the trust of students, parents, and the profession. Avoiding preferential treatment helps maintain appropriate staff-student relationships. Another type of boundary violation involves physical interactions with students, touching a student in a way that makes a reasonably objective student feel uncomfortable, or physical contact that is unnecessary and unrelated to the performance of professional responsibilities violate the staff-student boundary. Examples include staff member-initiated frontal hugging, a student sitting on a staff member's lap, a staff member sitting on a student's lap, massaging a student, requesting or allowing a student to give a massage to a staff member, uninvited touching, or unnecessary physical contact with a student in either a public or private situation. A teacher's aide in a high school asked a student to remove himself from her chair so that she could begin working at her computer. When the student wouldn't comply, the teacher's aide sat on the high school student's lap and began working at her computer. Although the student found the actions amusing, the conduct was unnecessary, inappropriate, and had no educational purpose. Other students in the class immediately recognized the inappropriateness of the behavior and recorded the incident on his phone. He then posted a video of the interaction on the internet, and before long, the unprofessional conduct went viral. The negative impact went far beyond the staff-student relationship. Maintaining professional boundaries does not mean there can never be physical contact of any type between a staff member and student. Examples of appropriate physical contact include pats on the back or shoulder, side hugs, handshakes, or high fives. In some instances, physical contact is permitted or required for implementation of a student's IEP or 504 plan, or assisting a student when required as part of fulfilling professional responsibilities. Outside of those high fives and pats on the shoulder, when contact is required to assist a student, it's a good idea to ask permission and explain your intentions before initiating a necessary touch.